Hello, and welcome to the CS Movement Podcast with Heather and John. As you can tell, we're in a different spot today. How are you doing today, Heather?
I'm doing good, John. It's good to just turn and look at you as opposed to see you in front of me on the screen. This is exciting.
Yes, it is. And from Monday, a nice way to kick it off in terms of just being in a different spot. Like talking about being outside of the norm, right? For a second there, I thought this line was a divider between the screens, but it's not. We are actually in the same room. Look at that.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Okay, so it's Monday.
It's Monday.
We're here. We're at school, actually. This is fun. We are putting on a new hat today. We are professors again, getting ready for the fall semester. And today is education for professors, of course. That is really good to make sure that we're always dedicated to lifelong learning. I mean, both me and you, John, we're dedicated to lifelong learning.
Yeah.
And we're going to learn and meet some more professors today. So I'm super excited. But what's been coming up for you this week or this weekend, John?
Yeah, no, this weekend was an interesting one. It was different, normal than my usual, because I didn't get to all the things that I normally get to do. But this weekend was an opportunity to experience something different, right? Like being around different people. For those of you that don't know, I photograph part-time, and it's one of the things that I do. Yes, I have many hats. And I got to be in different environments this weekend around different people and just having different types of conversations. They talk about being and getting outside of your comfort zone, getting outside of your group of five, right? Because there's typically 5 or 6 or maybe 10 people that we hang with on a regular. This actually broke me out of that.
Okay.
And it was really neat just to have conversations with different mindsets and different ideologies, because it helps all of us grow as people, right?
Well, I think what's cool as a photographer is you're actually seeing the world through that lens.
Through a lens,
and
literally.
So through a lens, literally. So you're one step removed. And there's a process in neurolinguistic programming that you look through and see the world through a different lens, but you actually saw it through a different lens. And you're seeing people at their best and at their most nervous and all kinds of emotion that happens at weddings. So, tell me what you've learned as a photographer that you can actually translate into leadership skills.
Yeah, no, just actually, it's interesting you say that, because you literally do have a different lens on the world. And depending on the lens, you can either go really wide, like a wide lens, or you could go really focused with the zoom lens. And, it was really interesting that you said that, because I never thought of it like that. Just being the observer, right? Like the one thing that you have to do as a photographer is you got to pay attention to the little details, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just the clothing and making sure that buttons are done upright and flowers are hanging right and all that stuff, but it also comes down to the micro expressions on people's faces.
Yes.
Right. You have to look, and I'm looking at people, and you can see, especially when you're doing groups of people, you can see different expressions on different people's faces. And it's like, are you not happy being here right now? Like, that's one of the things I do, like, to just lighten it up, right? They're like, no, we love being here. I'm like, great, show me, right? Like, so, and then they'll bring it up on their face and they'll be like, oh, okay. I'm like, even like people, what I realize is a lot of people, they don't stand up tall. Like we have a habit.
They want to be smaller.
Yeah, we do a habit of doing this. I'm like, okay, everybody straighten up your back, and everybody grew by like 2 inches.
Wow.
Right. And I'm like, how many times do we go around, like, just like you said, playing small, closing ourselves off from the world physically.
Yeah.
Right.
It's those micro expressions are so important. And we think we're hiding them. We think we're so good at hiding those thoughts that we're having in our head, but actually they show up in our body. And most times they're louder than our words and they're louder than our actions. So, think about that. What are you saying to the world? What are you communicating in a team meeting, in a one-on-one interaction? If you're anxious, that other person is picking up on your anxiety. And then if they translate into, oh, this person doesn't like me, wow, that interaction in that first 30 seconds is not going anywhere. I love, John, this is, one of those things that I just have to admit that I do it, but I do love watching reality TV. Okay. And I love watching it because not only are they train wrecks, but they're train wrecks for exactly that situation, in that they're not communicating effectively with the words. Their body language is saying something completely different, and they're just off in, all kinds of different directions. And I'm really good at predicting what's about to happen. I mean, so is the rest of the world. So it's not like this huge skill, but I love just like seeing, oh, that person's lying, or that person's this, that person's that. And I'm not doing it because, well, it's a little bit of a soap opera, but I'm actually testing my own skills as reading body language when I watch these. At least that's the story I like to tell myself.
Yeah.
But it's important because when you look through a lens and you see the world and people, you can see these micro expressions and you can understand what's going on inside of them. And as long as you do this one thing, never make it about yourself. Always make it about the other person. You will be hands down so good at reading the room, reading the body language, and making people feel comfortable and included.
Yeah. No, you know, as you were saying that, and thank you. Good morning, Michael. So happy to have you here with us. It's been a while. But yeah, no, he just said, you know, remind myself to roll my shoulders back and really change my physical and mental state. No, absolutely. But the one thing that you said that hit a nerve with me a little bit was us making assumptions about what we think other people think.
Yes.
Right?
Never.
You know, so the truth is, and this is both of us, we learned this through our NLP work, is you can never know what the other person's thinking.
No.
And we create all these stories of what we think people are thinking. And then we base our behavior based on what we think people think about us. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Okay.
And here's the craziest part. Okay, everybody take this down. Nobody's thinking about you. They're thinking of themselves. And not in an egotistical way, I hope there's no broccoli in my teeth. I hope that nobody can smell my coffee on my breath. I hope that I don't trip and fall. I hope that I present well. People's own anxieties show up first. And so sometimes when your own anxieties are showing up first, you actually have the lowest amount of awareness for what's around you. And when you can let your ego go, and you can just let that all go, and we talk about this in our Confident Communicator course, and be of service to others, this is when you'll see the world through a whole new lens, and you'll pick up on these micro expressions and these micro moments where you can then make a biggest impact in their life.
Yeah, no, don't make it about you, right? Like, just don't. So this is what ends up happening too, is how we start interacting is based on how we feel about ourselves, right? So if we think somebody doesn't like us, is maybe because there's something in them that we don't like in ourselves. Or if there's something that, you know, gets us upset or pissed off about the other person, that's because there's something inside of us, right? When you do make it about the other person, you're not making it about you. There's no attachment to feeling or any sort of thoughts or ideas around what that, like if you just take everything at face value. And here's what I'm going to invite. I know it's a little early, but we're going to do this now. But think about your day and think about the people that you interact with and just take things at face value, right? Because even I've seen it, and I've had my own stories around, well, you know, I did this, so I think maybe that person thinks I'm like this. Right? Have you ever had that feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. They must think I'm crazy. You don't know. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe you are a little bit crazy, but just take things at face value. If somebody says, I really like your outfit, just like, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Instead of saying, well, why does that person have to be polite and kind to me and say that my outfit looks nice? Like, how many times, like, I've heard that story, like, I've even gone through it myself. It's like, but why would, it's not a big deal. Like, you know, just, that's fine, right? But
people don't know how to take compliments either.
Yes.
If you can accept those compliments, then you are being accepting of that person. So think about that. If you accept a compliment that someone says, you're being accepting of that person. If you push it away, you're actually energetically pushing that person away and almost telling them that you don't believe them. So if you don't believe them for that reason, what else do you not believe them for? Think about it in a team setting where you're trying to build trust. Oh my goodness, that can just be a disaster zone. And that awareness is all about where your ego is and where your own anxiety lies. So don't make it about yourself, make it about them.
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel like we have a theme today.
We have a theme, and it's perfect timing because we actually, as new professors at Centennial College, we're going to go meet a whole bunch of new people. We want to make a good impression. We want to meet some people that teach the courses that we're going to teach so that we can learn from them. And we're going to practice this in like literally 10 minutes. So this is fantastic. It's exactly what we love to do. We love to talk about topics that are relevant that we're going through at the exact same moment. So if you're ever ever, going to a networking event and you're like, oh, these things make me really nervous, this is the best thing. Don't try to be interesting, be interested.
Yes.
Be interested in the other person, ask lots of questions, check in on how long that they've been doing something, what's their favorite place that they've traveled in the last few years. Ask them as many questions that make sense to you. And I'll tell you, I love when I get this feedback. I get this feedback where that was the best conversation. And they really sometimes know nothing about me, but I know lots about them, because people love talking about themselves. And when you make it about them and let them open up and flourish, they'll feel like there's space to grow and that there's trust in the room.
Yeah. Well, now that everybody knows this, right? Everybody loves to talk about themselves. It takes work not to talk about yourself and just ask those questions, because it's one of the things that I realized I was doing, right? Where I was just, okay, and so it wasn't even an exchange. You would just voluntarily talk about yourself. But asking those questions, yes, the best conversations I've ever had with total strangers has been me asking questions about them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And, for those that are returning into the workplace, right? Summer, a lot of people have been off, or people have been working remote. And I know there's a big push for organizations to get people into the workplace. So it could be a great opportunity to reconnect with your fellow teammates by asking them questions around, how was your summer? What did you enjoy? What was the best part of your summer? Instead of like, what did you do? Get into the parts that help light them up in a really positive way. Right? And just spark that conversation of, yes, that was great. We had a great time, and this is what we did. And then they get into the little details. And this is where I find the gold nuggets is when you get into the little things where, me and my daughter learned how to ride her bike for the first time.
Oh, I love those stories.
Right? So it changes the environment. It changes the connection with that person on the other side of the table. And again, it's not about you, right? And it's like, but when are they going to ask me questions about me? Well, when the time's right, they will turn around and at some point ask you, so what about you? What was your summer like? What did you enjoy? What did you like? You can actually start to set the tone for what that conversation is going to be.
And you're teaching them how to ask those questions. For someone that's never been in that situation and really has no experience asking questions, they don't have a list in their head ready to go. So you're asking those questions, and they'll walk away and be like, wow, I might not know those answers. And then the next time they meet you, they might ask those questions. Or, it's practice. This is not a skill that is, this is an advanced skill in communication. It really is. And it takes practice. So any moment that you have, whether it be at work, even, you're getting your coffee and at the barista, talk to her at the cash register. I love saying, like, do you have any fun plans for the weekend? And just seeing what comes about it. But you're getting curious about that person's life and about that person as a person. And that is really, really golden nuggets for everyone.
Yeah, actually, and the one thing I'm gonna add on to what you just talked about, the barista, the person that's making or preparing your stuff, use their name. Right? If they have name tags and the name tag is displayed, the one thing I love is like, hey, Maggie. And they're like, how do you know my name is Maggie? Well, it's like it's on your badge, right? Just have fun with it, right? Like, just, interact in a way that most people don't interact. And it's crazy to think how, we go through life sometimes and we don't really connect with people. We may be in the same room, we may work with people for a really, really long time, but we never really connect.
And
right?
people have this belief that you can't make a connection very quickly. And me and my girlfriend, we do this thing called the napkin exercise. And this came about because we were having dinner together and we came up with some really good ideas. And we have a no phones policy when we're having dinner. So we're like, the only thing we have is napkins to write down these ideas. And so it became our napkin sessions quarterly. And now when we go to the restaurant, what we do is we include the server in our napkin exercise.
Oh, wow.
Literally, we write out all of our goals. We write out who we want to be in the next quarter, in the next year. We talk about we write things. This is the rule. We write things that are so crazy that there's no way that they could happen. Well, guess what happens? When you put it out in the universe like that, it does. And we ask the server if they'd like to participate. And every single time they're like, absolutely. And they come back. So we give them the question. They have to keep working, of course. And they come back with amazing insights with their, and I follow a couple of them on Instagram.
Nice.
One girl says she'd like to be a travel blogger. Guess what she is right now? She's a travel
Wow.
blogger. I mean, like, I like all of her stuff because I'm just so enamored by her, that moment in time that she decided to get curious about her own life and push it out. And that, you know, we don't know these people. They're serving us our food. We're using their name. We're asking questions, and we're getting them to think. So you can make this kind of a connection in literally 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, I almost think this is something that organizations can do too, right? Like have lunch with your colleagues, right? Instead of just going off and doing whatever, or sitting at your desk and working through your day and taking meetings. Have a napkin session.
Yes.
Right? What does the next quarter look like for us? And no phones, right? Because everybody has a phone. And what's even worse is when people message each other while they're in a meeting about the person who's talking at the front of the room. Don't do that. It's very disrespectful, and everybody thinks you're up to something and hiding. And, you know, we talk about taking things at face value. If people aren't paying attention on their phone and they're messaging each other and they're laughing at each other across the table, you know, it's not good stuff. So don't do that. But, you know, having a napkin session, all devices away, what does the next quarter look like for us? Especially as we go into, you know, we're wrapping up Q3 and then we're going into Q4. What is that going to look like for you?
Well, and here's the thing, when you put the phones away, you have to find another way to communicate. It's not your normal way. So, you know, me and my girlfriend, we literally, what are we going to do? We have to capture these ideas, and we grabbed napkins and we asked the server for pens. And then this became a new norm, a new session for us. So what other processes are we missing because we're stuck in the digital world and we're not in the organic real world, like, to be honest with you?
Yeah. Yeah. It just, yeah, no, 100%. As you're saying that, I'm thinking my focus is like, okay, now I'm just down to what's in front of me. And actually, again, going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, was just making that connection, right? Like just the act of writing and taking things out of our head is a great way to just externalize certain things, right? Certain ideas, but also feelings, right? So if there's any sort of feelings attached to it, you're externalizing it and you're almost releasing it. Right. It's one of the things that I love in and around journaling. And actually, I was listening to a podcast this morning by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who talked about the power of journaling and what it can do. Right. So just the act of writing is a great way to release things so they don't sit with you. So, wow, it's crazy.
All of this by just looking through the lens of life, John. This is how all of those skills that you have, that you use on the weekends and for your extracurricular activities, help us bring it to a leadership lesson. So what's the lens of life that you're going to look through today? And, you know, hopefully from what you've learned from us today, you're going to see it from someone else's point of view, through the eyes of someone else. And if you're nervous, if you're anxious, if you're thinking, I hope they like me, I hope, let that go. Let that go and actually assume that they may be feeling exactly the same. And what can you say or do or ask that will make them feel a lot more comfortable today and every day in the workplace or wherever you're going to meet them? So I love that as a call to action. And I love it because me and you are about to go do it ourselves. And like, we're going to go do it right now.
Yes. Michael, thank you for tuning in today and listening. And yes, go do your thing. But you're right. You know, what lens are you going to be using today? And what's that one thing that you're going to do differently? And, you know, is there an opportunity for you to just be completely focused on the other and take things at face value, right? Don't make up the stories. Just let them go and just, okay, face value. If somebody says something nice, be open to receiving, right? And I think that's a big part of it. So we are going to wrap up a little bit earlier today. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. And just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to you all on Wednesday. Take care.